Many of the Dulcimers' roots lie in Knott County.
And as WYMT's Mitchell Grogg reports, the Dulcimer has even led to festivals, including one in Hindman called a homecoming.
The 38th annual Great American Dulcimer Convention began with a concert, but also included a chance for people to learn more about the instrument's history and how to play music on it themselves. Randy Wilson is an instructor here.
I got interested in the music of my ancestors in college, and I started traveling back here in the mountains and looking up old-time banjo players, and I realized that the dulcimer was part of the history here too, and a pretty simple instrument to begin on.
Some of these classes happened outdoors on the porch, but ironically, dulcimers usually stayed inside.
Generally speaking, it was the lady in the home who played it, and often because she wasn't allowed to play the banjo or fiddle out there with all the boys.
Inside this house of sorts for the dulcimer, the teaching goes beyond learning to play. The instrument must exist first. Doug Naselrode teaches his students the art of luthery, or making stringed instruments.
Part of the history of Hindman. Hindman is probably the most dulcimer-intensive place in the whole United States. People don't realize how many dulcimers have been made here and how far back that goes in Hindman's history.
Celebrating that skill is part of the Hindman Dulcimer Homecoming Festival. Made possible by a federal grant the Appalachian Artisan Center in Hindman received this year. The festival also included a tour of the shop, workshops, and several concerts. The Hindman Dulcimer is known for its hourglass shape and inverted hearts. A central figure in this type of dulcimer's history is James Edward Thomas.
We call him Uncle Ed. And about in the 1870s, he started making this very delicate, very nice dulcimer that was unlike anything that anyone else was or had been making. It's his own style, his own type of dulcimer.
If he met you on the road, which mostly back then would have been in the creek bed, he would stop, take his chair out, sit down and play you a tune on his dulcimer and then try to sell it to you.
Historical estimates indicate Uncle Ed made and sold close to 1,500 dulcimers in his lifetime. Only a few originals survive.
So the history of the dulcimer sort of emerges out of the mists, you might say. Unlike the banjo and the guitar and others which were commercially manufactured and disseminated through stores, the dulcimer has no such history. It was always homemade and handmade, and it was a folk art. And the result of that is that much or most of its early history is lost.
Several others made the instrument in Hindman as well, Jethro Ambergy among them. These men are long gone, as are most of their instruments, but Smith encourages people to examine these specimens, as he calls them, to capture a glimpse of the stories they tell.
The instruments themselves, while they can't talk, if we spend enough time with them and look at another one, we begin to see some things in common and begin to understand.
One Eastern Kentucky woman helped to make the dulcimer more common, spreading it to a wide audience when folk music experienced a rebirth.
And you will hear from that woman as we finish our series tomorrow night at 6 when we look back at our 2008 interview with a dulcimer legend.